Welcome back to Recoup. Today is Monday, December 8th, 2025. I'm Sweets. This is Sid. This is our Monday check-in where we talk about what we are going to be working on this week. For me this week, my goal on Friday was to work on MCP. That's still a goal. The top goal that I'm working on right now is implementing API keys. I've already built out the docs, so I guess I'll share what's already been built. We have docs at docs.recoupable.com. When you click getting started, it takes you to the getting started page. And then in here, we have our API keys docs. Step 1, you will access the page. Step 2, you'll create the API key. You just put in a name that you want to name your API key. And then when you create it, you need to copy it because we only reveal the key once. We do not store your API keys in our database. So it is up to you when you create a key to make sure that you store it, because we can't reproduce a key. If you do lose a key, you just delete it, create a new key, and then make sure you copy it again. But that gives you the most security that you are the only person that has access to your keys when you create them. And then 3, you'll use the API key. Right now, we're kind of using account ID as our API key, which is not secure, because if that gets shared, it gives access to all of your tools. So we'll be moving to API key. That way you, as the owner of your account, can pass in your API key. You'll just pass it into the header for X API key, and then any requests that you run will use the API key. We've got examples in Python, JavaScript, TypeScript. So docs were written. Supabase has also been updated to now include the table. If you go, well, this is only for us, we're sharing it. And then we've got our account API key should be here. I just merged this. Unless the deployment didn't. Let me check if I merged it. And then we go back to Recoup chat. Do we have an X over here? We do have an X over here. Supabase preview failed for some reason. Account organization IDs already exists. This looks like one of the tables that you made, and it is likely a migrations. Are you manually running migrations in Supabase?
No, I'm creating them. I'm creating the migrations and putting them in when I merge.
When you merge, you're copying the migration and putting it manually into Supabase, or you're letting the actions generate them?
I'm creating the migration file in. I usually create the migration file in the repo and then merge. And then if it's merged, I check it. If it works, then it's good. If it doesn't work, then I manually put it in Supabase.
Okay, so it sounds like you doing your changes has now put our merging in a place where it's not going to work. If it didn't work for you once, it's not going to work for anybody in the future. So this is why the migration files are very important, and you should not be manually copying migration files, because that means that what I did is not working. So someone needs to go in and clean this up. I would prefer if you did, because you're the one that merged these tables that are now breaking our pipeline. If you don't, it is blocking me on getting my changes out. I will not be copying migration files directly into our production database, because we built these systems for a reason. The reason for this is you were modifying migration files that were already migrated, and by modifying those, you've put the changes in a state where they don't work. So what you need to do is take this error, put it into your Vibe coding tool, and write a migration file or update a migration file that you broke to get this error gone, so that the changes that are in our database, which have not been deployed, get deployed to Supabase, and then we can trust the system moving forward and not copy and paste things into our production database.
So wait, explain to me really quickly what you just said about the reason why it wouldn't work when we migrate is because the migration already ran.
Correct. So this says relation, this already exists. So this is saying it is trying to run a migration file where it's creating a table that already exists. So somebody copy and pasted a migration file into prod and created a table. And then when they merged their changes in, it tried to create a table, but that table already exists. So one of your migration files is trying to create a table that already exists. Depending on how you've structured your migration files, the solution to this is going to be different, but this is a result of changing migration files which have already run, as well as manually updating prod, not following the system of allowing migration files to work as they're supposed to.
Okay. So would it be better to just do a PR that cleans up all migration files, or just focus on this one?
You should focus on this one. You should not, in general, you should not be touching migration files that have already been merged. You're taking my feedback and you're throwing it in, and then it's updating old migration files. I wanted to push back, but I'm trying to let you ship your code.
Instead of creating new migration files, is what you're saying, is what it should have done.
It should have created new migration files. Once a migration file has been pushed, you should not be modifying that migration file because it has been run in your preview deployment. And so you won't any changes you make to that, it will not run again in your preview deployment. And then when you merge it to prod, it's going to do behaviors you didn't expect because your changes you're making in these existing migration files won't get run in your preview. And so you'll be like, oh, this looks great in my preview deployment. And then you merge it to prod, and then things that didn't get run in your preview because you never tested it in a new migration file that was not run is going to get run in production. And so you will have diverging behavior between what happens in your preview deployment and the production implementation.
Understood. Okay. All right. So then that just also becomes a rule of never edit old migration files.
Correct.
Cool. All right. I will fix this.
Okay. So I've merged the changes, but they don't exist in prod, and they won't exist in prod until our system has been cleaned up. Moving from here, I need the API keys table because now I'm building out the API that's going to read and write from that table. So for now, I will pause until this has been fixed so that I can keep building out APIs. With that, I will toss it over to Sid.
Okay. Before I dive in, I want to jump into the 5K that we spent over the weekend. Is that fixed? Is that still possible?
That is it's possible for it to happen again.
Do we know why it happened?
It happened because the chat continued to work even though an account had 0 credits in it. The steps to fix this are either a short-term fix if an account has 0 credits, fail the chat, and then just throw an error. The deeper, better fix is our chat needs to be built on X402. That way we are charging behind the scenes, and it uses our same X402 system for failing when not enough credits can be used to make the X402 payment.
But okay, understood. But let's just put this situation into the customer's hands for a second. At what point, like did you mean to run those 2 tasks those 2 ways, or was that like an error in just like the system creating those tasks and then running them so continuously? Did you intentionally run those tasks?
No, it might have accidentally gotten created by me when I was moving the task tools into MCP, but I don't remember ever setting my account ID to rostrum or to that specific account. So it makes me think that somebody else did, but I don't know how they would have gotten my account ID. It seems like it was the highest probability it was me, and I did it by accident, and I made that task.
So let's pretend you were a customer. There's 2 scenarios that like one is we want the customer to be able to use the tools when they set their tools, and they intentionally set their tools to be running long tasks, right? We want to make it frictionless, which it was in this scenario. Vercel did a great job of making it frictionless for us to just run up their fucking tokens, and the AI gateway. Do I wish they would have stopped us sooner? Absolutely, because it was an unintentional frictionless experience where we didn't mean to run the tokens up that much. So I could have set it to like a certain number of inverse gateways, set it to like, only allow X amount of tokens to run before it stops us. So yeah, I'm just
They
trying
have
to
that
think.
configuration in Vercel.
Yeah, they have a configuration where it auto runs, but like you can set it to like max $500 or max $1,000 or like,
On what, a monthly basis? Or
yeah.
that's probably a good idea for now. We know how much we should be doing, so we should probably just put a cap. If
Yeah.
for some reason we scale, we remove that at that time, but we know more or less what are we spending, $100 a week on gateway credits.
Yeah.
So on a monthly basis,
Yeah.
a
Anything over
1,000 limit feels adequate so that we
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
get 5K.
Yeah, correct. And I think that like I can do that on our end, so we save from our purpose, we save face, but moving forward. But then we just like as we start to fix this thing, I want to think through that, giving the customer the same option of capping, or do we just do it for them, where it's like it's capped at $1,000, and if you want more, then we'll email you and say, hey, you're about to run over. Do you want to renew your credits before we just automatically do it?
I recommend for now, short-term Vercel, put that cap in at 1,000 a month. That way we at most only hit 1,000 per month. And then this migration keeps going deeper and deeper of, I need to move all the APIs. I need to do MCP. Now we need API keys. And each of these is like a thing built onto the other. I would prefer to do this right, especially as you're saying, we don't want to let it run up. Right now, the max a single account can spend is if they have, I think, 1,000 credits, which is $11. So right now in our system, if we hard cut people off at 0 credits, we don't have any sort of top up mechanism. We haven't talked through a top up mechanism in our billing. So it sounds like we want to think through a more nuanced, don't just cut people off at 0. If we have the option to charge them, we want to charge them. So let's talk through that more as I'm moving these things over. And for now, I recommend just do the UI update, put a cap of $1,000 on Vercel, and then this immediate error of, oh shoot, people can
we at least this won't happen again
while we're thinking through and I'm doing this bigger architectural migration.
Yeah, cool. Okay, cool. That was my big question mark. The other stuff was like, as you're doing the MCP stuff, versus the X402 stuff, is there any new insights or information that you've, like we just realized the API endpoint for the chat is like the top level. Is there any other thoughts on MCP as you're migrating this? Because I feel like it's a good thing that you're migrating all the tools, because you're also able to like see all the different tools and the description and say, wait, is this an old tool or a new tool? Do we have 2 tools that are doing the same thing? Is there any learnings as you're doing this, or are you still just heads in the middle of it?
The biggest thing I'm learning right now is longer tool. It seems like MCP is great for short, immediate responses. Longer running tools seem to break MCP. So generate image, edit image, analyze full catalog, things that take 30 plus seconds. It seems like MCP is a short-lived connection and it'll break. What I'm leaning to is the question I have in my head is, should we move anything that takes longer than 5 seconds to respond to trigger.dev and offload those longer running tasks into a task or a single trigger execution? And then the front end gets responses immediately. You never sit there when you say Peloton needs a new Halloween playlist and it sits there spinning forever. No, it makes a query. It starts trigger.dev, then does the analysis. The chat gets a response back immediately from our MCP server. We show a UI. Maybe that UI has a spinny wheel, but then the conversation continues and you can keep talking in the conversation. And how's the progress? You scroll back a little bit.
I really like that.
That's my current thinking. The biggest loss you get is right now, for example, in the Get catalog, it waits. And so the chat then knows what the response is as it gives its final answer. If we offload this to the task, the chat finishes and it might say, I have started analyzing, but it's not going to give you those 10 songs immediately. It'll say like, I have started this analysis. Please check back for the status. And then you can scroll up immediately and see the status, or you can ask, what's the status? And then you come back and you continue the conversation whenever it finishes. And then a simple workaround of that is anytime we do offload something like that, we send people an email whenever it finishes. That way people are getting re-engaged with our emails, and it builds more of our email loop for outreach when these longer running tasks finish.
I mean, I keep going back to just like, this becomes more of a UI question of how do you show the user things that the agents are doing short-term, mid-term, long-term, and how do you let the user have a conversation and know what is available now versus what is available in a bit versus what's going on, and keep the user engaged while things are still happening. I really like the tasks. Anything longer than X, have it as a let it go to a trigger or work.dev or whatever, or workflow.dev or whatever we decide. Probably trigger since it's already set up. But then the question becomes, how do we show the user and let the user know that that's okay? I've kicked that off. It's give it 5 minutes. Is there anything else you want to do now while we wait? And then like when that task gets sent back, how do we like put that context back into the chat so it has it? I don't know. I keep going to this concept, the UI concept of, I think I showed you this earlier, maybe not. I wasn't very specific about it, but like if we remove everything, like currently we have right, like that's like our, and like here, this is the side chat with a bunch of stuff going on. This is the artist chat with a bunch of stuff. This is the chat input, which then comes down here when a chat starts. And then this entire area is the chat window, right? But like, what if we removed all of that shit so that it only comes up when the user needs it or like calls it on the sidebars? And the chat window was only like that big. And so if the user says, like, here's the inline chat that's happening, here's the prompt. But if the user says, go get me catalog, it says, great. And that tool's process shows here. And they can continue to have the chat. And then it says, make me an image. Great. So like there's like these little boxes that are coming up and happening. And then once this is done, it says done, and it feeds it back into here. And then it says, oh, by the way, this is done. And then that gets removed, and now they have space. But like basically showing the user as it's happening, if that makes sense, like what is going on. But they can still have the inline chat, but it's like very clear visually what is happening elsewhere. If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
I hear your vision. I think there's a lot of details in the implementation that is not clear on it. I lean away from big architectural refactors from that unless a customer is asking for it. I think the better implementation is focusing on our customers want to be talking to us via SMS or email. And those should be the interfaces that we really focus on, not big architectural rewrites on this, unless a customer is demanding it. And if they are, let's understand that use case very clearly.
Yeah, no, I like what you're saying. And I mean, I'll even say like what you just said is great, because even if we don't do a gigantic architectural rewrite, but we have a tab that says like in progress, like things. And like, so like if you're talking via SMS or you're talking via email and you request something that's obviously not going to be in line, right? Like, or that takes
That's
long.
a much easier list.
You need like a way to be able, yeah. You need
then
a
we
way
just query on trigger.dev what is running right now, and that is associated with this account, and that's a much smaller design space for us to do. We have a tab for in progress things.
Yeah,
for running tests.
Yeah, isn't that great? That it's called in progress. Oh, process in process. No, but I like it. I like that. That makes it easier. But I agree though. I really like the concept, and then it just becomes the same concept. It's basically sub agents, but it's we just have to figure out how when to attach us a prompt, as long with the sub agent.
And this builds on the mental model that OpenAI is already doing with Sora. When you generate a video, unlike image generation, you don't sit there and wait till the image comes back. You say, generate the video. It gives you a response back and says, here's the ID of the video. And then you have to, as the dev, keep polling the status until the status comes to 100%. So that seems to be a newer mental model that OpenAI is building around for these longer running things. With images, you sit there and it could be a long run, and they just force you to sit there waiting for the HTTP response. With videos, they have made the difference in the jump to say, okay, this is too long for us to force a dev to sit there. You start it, we give you back an ID, and then you keep polling that until you get a success. And so we're aligning with where they're moving for longer running tasks like video generation.
And it should probably be that way with everything at a certain point, right?
I agree.
And then the question becomes, do you call the Sora tool, or do you call the music video agent, who also has the Sora 2 tool, but it also has the prompt, you are an expert agent you're an expert at music videos, and here's all of the prerequisites around it, you know? But all right, cool. I think we're aligned on that. All right, so my focus and what I have to do is I have to fix the migration blocker that you have currently going on. Let me see my schedule this today. All right, I have a meeting with Sweets at 1:45. Other than that, I'm pretty good. So I have some time over the next couple of hours, so I'll knock that out to unblock you, and then I have to also then ship the org thing. So I'll do those two things hopefully in the next hour or two to unblock you. And then that's and then what I'm shipping is the task, and then I'll do Vercel cap unblock Suites, and then I need to do Vercel cap unblock Suites, and then pick model for tasks, which is the PR that I have open that I need to swap with what you were mentioning previously. So those are my three things in this today that I'll work towards. On Wednesday, I'm going to be in New York at a AI conference, so I canceled our meeting on Wednesday, but I'll be back on Friday. And then sometime this week, I'm going to be meeting with the team about the Gatsby stuff to at least like kick that project off for the new year. So I'll keep you updated on that. I don't know if we're going to have the meeting this week or next week. But I'll keep you in the loop on that, because that's going to be like a kickoff meeting and kind of setting up what the next steps for that project is. All right, that's everything. on my side.
What's the name of the conference you're going to?
It's called AI Summit.
And what are you hoping to be on the other side of that conference? What do you to have achieved or gained as a result of that singularity of the conference?
It's a good question. I think I really want confirmation around like just the agent architecture that enterprises are using right now and thinking through. Not even just enterprises, just in general, just agent architecture that is not them pitching me their tooling. So I'm being very conscious of like who the speaker is and where they come from, and trying to just join conversations that are around like context engineering and in an agent orchestration. I think is my 2026 focus, because especially, I mean, today even like really helped facilitate the idea of like, even if even people building AI tools don't want to be the AI orchestrators. Like they want to rely on other people to orchestrate and abstract those systems away. And so if we can get really good at orchestrating our agents and the intelligence side of it, there's value there.
And then you mentioned task models. What were the changes you wanted to make with models for tasks?
I shipped last week the ability to pick models, but remember, you hadn't had that API. You didn't merge that API endpoint yet. So I have to go in and make that update to the API repo, so that it can then accept the model, so that when I ship that model picker for tasks, it actually updates the model that is being used.
If I'm understanding you right, that's already live in prod. I did that when I moved the endpoint over. So if you go to your task page.
Did you already do it, Sweets? This is so nice.
If you go to the tasks page and you click on one of your tasks and you set the model drop down to something else, you refresh the page, whatever model you selected should still be there. I think the only missing piece, so whatever you modify in the UI is going to show up in the database. You should also be able to use that in the chat. So if you say create a task and use XAI Grok 4, it should save that. The only thing that I think is missing, is we need to go into the tasks repo and have it read the model from Supabase and include that in the request when it executes the task. That might already be done, but I have not looked, so it is worth a double check in the tasks repo. Am I understanding the change you were going to make?
Yes, the change. Well, so on Friday I tried to do it with just tasks, but tasks didn't have that endpoint. It was just like, that was just like the orchestrator for trigger. And then so when I said I asked you for the API endpoint, you said you were still building it. And so you built it. So yes, so I think once I need to see like what did you build, and then go into that and get more familiar with what you have already done, and then figure out what's stopping me from being able to choose Claude Opus for a task, like, and then fix whatever that is. But that's my third. First is unblock you and put a cap for cell, and then unblock you, and then pick the model for the task. And then it's funny. It's interesting because also like the second we start to upgrade models for tasks, things are going to start to get a lot more expensive. And so I feel like, putting the blocker on Vercel and then having that reminder of what is the user experience when they don't when a task isn't able to be accomplished because they run out of credits. The also thing that I'm also probably the one in the system that's using the most credits, and so I'm curious to see what I get. I'll get blocked before anybody else at the end of the day.
I've been finding myself get blocked more. Have you found yourself running out of credits or still no?
I'm 1,000% out of credits, but it just doesn't block me.
But it still lets you do stuff.
Yeah, I'm constantly at negative 3,000, like because all I use is Opus, like, and it's the most, So But all right, cool. So those are the three things. I appreciate it. I'm praying for Solana to be found. Let me know if anything I can do to help.
Thank you. Yeah, if anybody is out there and you want to give a prayer for a missing cat, there is a missing kitty in my household. And thank you all for tuning in. We will be back on Friday.